And now, direct from Las Vegas.
Welcome to Football Forecast Weekly. Each week, your host, Trip Mitchell, will introduce you to the top handicapper in Vegas, Dennis Tobler, and one of the top sportscasters in the U.S., Fred Wallen.
Today's edition of Football Forecast Weekly is brought to you by mybookie.ag. For the best in sports betting, go to mybookie.ag, and you can win just like Dennis, Fred, and me. And welcome to another edition of Football Forecast Weekly. Hi, everyone. I'm Trip Mitchell, and I'll be joined in just a second by the Dean of Sports Handicappers, Dennis Tobler, and one of the finest sports writers I've ever read or listened to, Fred Wallen. But first, let's talk about some exciting new stuff here. As we go into the final weeks of college football, finally, the pros take over. What I hate, Dennis, is when they have the AP, UPI, cheerleaders top 25 poll, Lee Spencer's top 25 poll. I don't listen to those, but when it gets down to the final polls, that one, it gets very interesting. Dennis, your thoughts?
I agree with you. I mean, until the committee starts ranking the college teams so you know where they're going to play in the different bowl games, it doesn't really matter about the college season. And then when you get to this committee rankings, it's a lot to be taken in. I mean, they've got Alabama this week up into the number 2 spot, even though they lost to Texas A&M, leaving behind some teams that have not lost this year, which really makes it questionable what's in the committee's mind. I mean, Cincinnati, for one, is out of the top 4, yet they're undefeated. So there's a lot to say there. I do believe Georgia's by far the best team in the country, and I think Georgia will beat the SEC championship game against Alabama, and maybe Alabama will be knocked out of that Final Four because they don't deserve to be there right now. Fred, what do you think?
I think it's Georgia, Alabama, and then everybody else. The big arguments, in my mind, would be Oregon and Ohio State. Obviously, Oregon bested the Buckeyes early in the season. However, there's nobody down the road that Oregon will beat in the Pac-12 that will help them get votes. Meanwhile, if Ohio State runs the table, they're going to get some extra votes. So those two are going to switch. I will guarantee that if they both run the table. The other argument is Michigan and Michigan State. They both have the Buckeyes in front of them, which means they both will probably have 2 losses. So I think they'll both probably bumped out of that 6th position. Your point about Cincinnati is well taken, except that the conference isn't considered all that strong. And one final thought, the Pac-12 stinks.
And I'll give my thought. Cincinnati stinks. Ever since they got up in those lofty rankings, they're playing marginal teams and beating them by a few points. So I disagree. Dennis, I think they should cancel the season right now. Alabama and Georgia should play best 4 out of 7, and let's be done with all this crap. But that's not going to happen.
No, and I'm not so sure about Alabama either, guys. They've been beat once already. Why are they up there? They're up there again. Just because it's anticipated they have all of these things. I look for them to lose again this year. And I hope they can get some other teams into bowls. It gets practically boring at this stage of the game. I have a couple other thoughts about college that I'd like to throw out there and maybe get you guys to weigh in on. This is the time of year they fire the college coaches when they haven't done well. 2 teams who seem to have stunk up the last 3 or 4 years would be Florida and Nebraska. Nebraska, especially, my old home state, brought in hometown hero Scott Frost 5 years ago to turn around that Cornhusker program. And this year, again, they're going to finish with a losing record. And it don't look like there's anything in sight for them. So what do? They fire all their assistant coaches and retain Scott Frost. Well done, Nebraska. I'm sure that's going to make you into the top 25 next year. Same thing goes with Florida. Florida doesn't think the head coach did a bad job, so they fired all their assistants too. So in this day and age, I guess the top of the rung doesn't matter anymore. The blame does not land at the top. The buck stops with the assistant coaches in this case. Anyway, it's kind of ridiculous. It all has to do with money, and who knows what we'll see next year, but college football will be coming into its own, and we'll be talking more about it when the bowl game season comes on.
Okay, let's transition to the NFL. And our first game on Sunday, the 14th, Indianapolis hosting the Jaguars. Indy lane or minus 10.5, 47 the total. And, you know, a month or so ago, we were laughing at Urban Meyer. He coached that team up the other day. And that, to me, is the biggest upset I've seen in the NFL in a long, long time. Let's talk about what's going on in Jacksonville. Dennis?
Well, it certainly was an upset that got the Bills in a precarious situation there, and sooner or later Jacksonville was going to win one. There were no touchdowns scored in that game, so I'm not giving much credit to anyone in that particular instance. The Colts are 10.5-point home favorites here, and if Wentz doesn't have 2 sprained ankles, maybe they can cover the spread, but I doubt it. I'm going to take Jacksonville plus the double digits. And I might add that last week underdogs went 9-3 versus the spread, and I happen to have the 3 losers on my contest card. So, you know, sometimes you just throw it all up in the air and go, what the hell? Because that's unbelievable. This week we've got six possible double-digit favorites by game time. So good luck with the bettors because they got hammered last week.
And by the way, just want to say something. If you're new to our show, the fact that we tell you about our losses might be an indicator that we are a little bit more transparent than some other shows out there. If you watch some other football betting shows, they've never lost. Just a hint there. Fred, what's your thought about the Jaguars coming in?
I don't think they'll play close 2 weeks in a row. I think they played their hearts out last week, bested a very good Buffalo club. It's not going to happen again. Jonathan Taylor should run right through this team. I'm not giving 10.5, but I'm just saying I think at home, Indy will win. And they've turned it around as long as Carson Wentz, is indicated by Dennis, doesn't have 2 sprained ankles or try to pass left-handed. They're a fine team, and they're an improved team. They're going to go 12-5, 13-4, something on the season. And again, Jonathan Taylor, to me, right now, without Henry being able to play, Jonathan Taylor is by far the best running back in the National Football League.
Okay, Fred, we're going to keep it right here. The Browns at the Patriots, and Patriots -2. And thanks for sharing that story about Belichick last week. I really enjoyed hearing that. Where we both, when you and I were on the American Sports Radio Network, Belichick was a devoted listener, and that he didn't like me. I was the asshole, but he liked you and came on your show and answered questions. I don't think he's done that in 25 years.
No, we were hurt in Cleveland, and they were just attacking him hard and harder. And one day he just called in, and he took calls for like an hour. So I really enjoyed it. And of course, the fans who went after him are saying to themselves right about now, he's a pretty good coach. Anyways, I think I think they'll win on Sunday. I think Cleveland played very well, blasting Cincinnati last week. And I just don't see that happening again that easily against the Patriots at home. I think Mac Jones didn't play all that well last week, but I think he's improved. I think I'll take the Pats minus the 2 at home on Sunday.
Okay, Dennis.
First thing I'll say is I'm glad they took off some of Baker Mayfield's commercials, and I hope they take off all of Aaron Rodgers. We'll get to that later. The Patriots surprised pretty much everybody last week, even though the wise guys were on them all week. They won on the road. The Browns, they cut loose. Cincinnati, we've all overrated Cincinnati, and I've said that since the beginning of the year. So, and the Browns just demolished Cincinnati. I think this is another thing you don't hear on prediction shows where people disagree with each other, but I wholeheartedly disagree with Fred. One of the wise guys' theorems is a home team favorite coming off of a road game where they were favored and won, most of the time don't cover. Now, that's a crazy theorem, but I'm going to take the Browns here. And if I get 2 points, I'll be happy as hell because I think it's not going to be that at game time.
Okay, and this is the only show where you'll hear theorem twice, by the way, and I've got the over and under on that, but we'll get to it in a sec. Next game up, Falcons at the Cowboys. The Cowboys -9, 53 the total. And Cowboys had a rough week last week, Dennis.
Yeah, they had a rough week last week, and I don't know how many times I've said Dak Prescott is the most overpaid, overrated quarterback in the NFL. And once again, I couldn't have been proven right any better than I was last week. The week before, some guy named Cooper Rush comes in and has a perfect game, demolishes the team on the road. They come back in and they put Dak Prescott and his $108 million salary in, and he can't complete a pass. And I'm not kidding you. He can't throw a pass. I just, the Cowboys have tried to give him, they've got all the talent in the world. They pay this quarterback more than they pay all the linemen added together, and he can't complete a pass. Now, he's another one of these flash in the pans that we've talked about all year. He was a flash in the pan. You understand? Now the defensive coordinators know how to counteract his act, and he don't have a very good act in the first place. So I don't think the Cowboys are going to cover it. Look, this line's going to be 10 by game time. And I'm going to take the Falcons here just because they can backdoor cover on the Cowboys. And also the Cowboys with Dak at quarterback. We were talking about this last week. When you have somebody on your team that's a disruptor, that's not doing what you expect them to do, whether it's not taking the COVID shot, whether it's not showing up for practice, or whatever it is, it hurts the team's morale. And I think in this case, Dak Prescott hurts the team's morale. I don't care what they say. I want to add one more quick thing. Ezekiel Elliott is not a pro running back. Okay? He's not. He cannot hold on to the ball. He cannot gain the extra yards. Too bad, too sad. Ezekiel Elliott and Dak Prescott are the worst backfield pair in the NFL. And most overrated.
Dennis, how do you feel about Jerry Jones as a general manager?
Jerry's just in it for the money, man. Just in it for the money, and I'm going to take Atlanta plus the points.
Okay. Fred, Dennis is withdrawing his application to be the PR manager for the Cowboys. Fred, let's go over this game.
Jerry Jones is not going to give him a Christmas card this year, I guarantee you.
Okay.
Got to remember, Prescott was off a week, and so sometimes it takes some time to come back. I mean, we've all gone through that in our lives and sports growing up and whatever the case might be. I'm not down on Prescott as hard, certainly not as hard as Dennis is. Cowboys have two wide receivers and a tight end in Schultz now, who might go for 3 or 4 touchdown passes this Sunday against a very, very weak Falcons defense. So not that I'd give 9.5 or 10, but I think Dallas will win. I think Prescott will play better. I think Elliott might even score. I think the Cowboys might score 40. And so one way or the other, a slight lean toward the Cowboys minus the 9 or 9.5.
Okay, we're going to take a short break. We're going to talk about the folks at mybookie.ag. When we come back, we've got some more great handicapping. You're watching Football Forecast Weekly. We'll be right back.
Get the latest breaking news in the sports betting world. MyBookie monitors and releases information pertaining to online sportsbooks and professional football. The good as well as the bad.
And welcome back to Football Forecast Weekly. Trip Mitchell, Dennis Tobler, Fred Wallen coming at you from the Football Forecast studio right here in Puerto Vallarta. Dennis, which studio are you in?
Well, I'm in Las Vegas where I always have to be. So I'm in Bet Central in Las Vegas.
And Fred, where are you?
I'm in the heart of Southern California, where I've been most of my life.
Are you at the beach? Is that what we see in the background?
No, we're not that far from the beach, actually, but Westlake Village, California, which is a far away from downtown Los Angeles. It takes us like if you want to go to Dodger Stadium, give you an example, 7:00 game, you probably have to leave like 4:00 to get to Dodger Stadium on time. So I don't go that often anymore.
Okay, well, let's get back to the schedule. And we've got the Bills at the Jets, another double-digit line, as Dennis mentioned earlier. We got a whole ton of them this week. And started out at 13, the Bills minus 13. Now it's down to 12.5, 47 the total. Fred, let's start with you.
Well, they didn't score a touchdown last week. The Bills did not score a TD, which means they'll score 5 or 6 or 7 this week against a Jets team, which is better than they started the season. I had no question about that. Fred's not going to give 2 touchdowns. So it's the Bills are going to win. I don't think there's any question about that. They'll score early and they'll score often. And Dennis, what do you think?
Well, I'm thinking the same thing. I mean, I'd love to take a home team underdog getting double digits, but in this NFL season, it's not such a cinch as it used to be. I agree with you. I don't think the Bills are going to be shut down like that again. And the Jets are going to be playing Mike White at quarterback. I'm not sure he can do anything, get any yards whatsoever. The Bills need to get back on track. They played horribly at the end of the game 2 weeks ago. They lost straight up to the worst team in the league last week. And if they don't come out firing this week, I think the odds on them winning the Super Bowl is going to be shot. So I too agree. I hate to lay the 13 points in this case. That's the only way I do it, is to lay the points and take the Bills.
Dennis, I've got a bone to pick with you. As a proud Detroiter, you cannot steal the mantle of the worst team in football. We own it, the Detroit Lions. So don't say Jacksonville's there with us. We are on top. I mean, we own this sucker.
Yeah, Jacksonville moved up a notch last week.
Okay, and let's go to an interesting game, and I'm looking forward to this one. Tennessee, the Saints traveling to the Titans. Titans -3, 44.5 the total. Dennis?
Well, the Titans are an awful tough team, and they believe in themselves, and they're very well coached. Vrabel is a great coach. That's all there is to it, because he knows the game, and he knows the game from both the offensive and the defensive side of the ball. They lost their big running back, but yet they came back and they won. And the reason they won is because they all are bought into the system. They're bought into where they are now, and they're right there in the division. So it's between them and Baltimore, right? Yep. Between them and Baltimore, who's going to win the division?
Well, you like some other teams in that division as well. So, but the thing about Tennessee's coach, if you were to go to central casting to find a coach who looks like the toughest guy in football, you could go no further than Tennessee coach.
It could be, because he was one of the toughest guys in football when he played football. I'm going to take Tennessee here. I mean, they missed their running back, their big-time running back, but it didn't look to me like they had any downfall in it because they ran the ball well. I think they're coming into their own. The spread on this game may only be 2.5, and even if it gets to 3, I'm going to take the Titans here at home. The Saints are without a quarterback. It was pretty obvious last week. They don't know which direction to go. So I'm going to take the Titans back home. I believe they fully believe in themselves. And frankly, about 3 weeks ago, I was thinking they were one of the best teams in the league, and they come up with a boner loss to somebody. But every team's had a boner loss to somebody by this time of the year. So I'm going to, I'm highly impressed with the Titans. I'm going to lay the points and take the Titans at home.
Okay, and Fred, losing the best running back in football, how has that affected the Titans, and how do you see him against New Orleans?
Well, an aged Adrian Peterson is hardly a Derrick Henry. I don't think you can make a comparison of the two, but I think they have enough to win this game. Simeon's not a bad quarterback playing for the Saints, but I think Tennessee will probably cover this one. It's not a hardcore wager on my part, but I do think that they will cover. And Brown, their wide receiver, is certainly not Hollywood Brown. A.J. Brown is turning into best wide receivers in the National Football League. Tannehill, who, folks, if you remember, started off as a tight end at Texas A&M, and now he's a top-notch or above-average NFL quarterback. So I'll go with the Titans with a slight lean.
And Adrian Peterson is many years removed from his glory days at Minnesota, where he was as much fun to watch as any back I've seen in 40 years of following football.
We agree 100%, but he's not, he played well. I mean, he comes off the street and he plays in the National Football League, didn't make any mistakes, and he had a reasonably good game. So he'll probably only get better, barring injury.
Yeah,
it's funny.
Also, the man is 36 years old, and he scored a touchdown. Like Fred said, he come off the street. So he's not George by any means, but he's going to fill the spots. He scored the touchdown. So he fits in very well with Tennessee. They might miss some rushing yards, but it's the offensive line that makes these guys run, okay? It's not George. It's the offensive lines that run through, make the holes for these guys to run through. Boy, I tell you, on this show, all I hear is skilled position names, quarterbacks, and wide receivers. Everybody forgets the big games are played in the middle.
And Fred, you might remember that Dennis was a lineman, so he is still has that prejudice.
Yeah,
I was
deeply.
a skill position player, but when I played, the word skill never came into the equation. So we'll figure that out. And let's go to our next game. The Buccaneers at the Washington football team. The Washington football team getting 9.5 and the total 51.5. Dennis?
Well, that game will be up to 10 by the time the game goes off too. So we're looking at a double digit practically. Road team favored again in the NFL. Now, in 10, 15 years ago, I'd have jumped all over those kind of games. This day and age, you just can't do it. However, the underdogs were 9-3 last week. So you gotta think the underdog direction here. I think that Tampa Bay may be playing it out. They're not trying to get 600 touchdowns for Brady anymore. They know they're going to make the playoffs. I don't think they're going to go balls to the wall on anything and any of the rest of the games this year. And frankly, Washington just doesn't have a team there. It'll be easy for Brady to pick them apart. They may win by 10, they may not. If I was forced to make a selection, I'd take Washington and take the points on the old Fred Wallen axiom.
And Fred Wallen, can you deliver your axiom, please?
I just don't give double digits in the National Football League. I never have. My dad taught me this a long, long time ago. Told me a couple things monetarily. Always get a fixed rate if you're borrowing money, and never give double digits in the National Football League. So I just don't do that with my money or with your money out there listening to Football Forecast Weekly. Again, Gronkowski surprised me by playing last week, and I didn't play him in fantasy. Then he may have gotten re-injured, so I'm not 100% sure he's going to play on Sunday. But Antonio Brown might come back for the Buccaneers, which just gives Brady even more ammunition. So again, I'm not wagering on it, but I do think the Bucs will win and probably win easily.
And Mr. Wallen also said, never borrow money from a guy named Guido.
Never do that. Yes, that's 100% correct.
And that advice, you seem to have all your digits working, so you've never borrowed from that individual.
No, I've never borrowed from Guido.
Okay.
And I never will. And I never will vote Republican. And I never will.
Guido.
Let's go to a game where my Detroit Lions are at the Steelers. Steelers are one of the revitalized teams in the NFL, and the big guy might be having a stretch of really good games in his final year. So Roethlisberger picking his game up. So right now, Pittsburgh -9 at home. Fred.
Well, I think you made a very solid point, Tripp, that the Lions, I think, are the worst team in the National Football League. They could go 0-17.
And by the way, they could be the fourth worst team in Michigan. Michigan and Ohio State, or Michigan and Michigan State are very good. And Western had a good game the other day. So not,
I feel sorry for Dan Campbell. I feel sorry for Jared Goff. It's not all on him. The chances they've had this year, they've lost some close ones. They're not going to probably win here, but honestly, if you were to tell me take or give the 9, I would take the 9 with the Lions just to play it close, and maybe they'll lose another heartbreaker. But eventually, maybe they get over the hump. And again, I feel sorry for Jared Goff. There's not that much of a difference, folks. I don't care what the Rams gave up. Stafford on one side and Goff on the other. Goff has just had a season where, again, it's an interception or a fumble in key situations. But I hope they get a win. Just from that aspect, I sort of feel sorry for him. And I know it's tough to feel sorry for somebody who's a millionaire playing football, but I do. I hope he gets a win. I would take the points if somebody said I had to make a wager one way or the other.
And Dennis?
No, I'm still wiping the tears from my eyes over Jared Goff, the poor little quarterback. He has to come up and play on his own now. And so let's see if he can do it. I have no sympathy or sorrow for him. He's just a lousy quarterback. Let me tell you something about the Pittsburgh Steelers. The game they played the other night against Chicago, they should have lost. I mean, Chicago had them beat 4 or 5 times. And I want to say something else that I've been dying to say all year long. The referees in the NFL suck. Are you kidding me? In that game against Chicago, they were calling penalties on Chicago right and left. I don't know how many they had, 12 or 13. Yet Pittsburgh could come in and smash the Chicago quarterback, and there were no flags. It was very obvious to me and many of the people that bet alongside me that that game was not fairly officiated. I'm telling you right now, there's no way, shape, or form that Pittsburgh's as good as that. And they will show this week, because I'm going to take the Detroit Lions plus the 9 points too. I don't think Pittsburgh's that good to beat anybody by 9 points. So I'm going to take the Lions plus the 9 points. I have complaints about the officiating. Okay, I understand all of this. You have to give everybody a chance stuff. But when I see women who are the head linesmen and the deep backfield thing calling pass interference and offside penalties and in motion penalties, and the worst things are the blocking penalties, the holding penalties they call. I'm telling you, I don't think women deserve to be in the National Football League as officials. They don't play the game. Show me a woman that's put on the pads and a helmet and beat her head against somebody else for a while so they understand how the game's played. Then I'll go along with a woman official. It's bad enough I have to listen to them announce the games, okay? I hate seeing them out there on the field making the calls, because I can point out 100 times this season where a female official has made a wrong call. And they certainly made some wrong calls in that Pittsburgh game last week. Let's go Lions.
Dennis, let me just add something. All of us have watched thousands of games in our life. The people watching Football Forecast Weekly watch hundreds of thousands of games in their lives. That was one of the worst officiated games I've ever seen. I talk about feeling sorry. I felt sorry for ESPN. I felt sorry for the National Football League. Those officials should not get another opportunity to screw things up. They should not get an opportunity to be refs during the playoffs. I don't think people understand. In high school, if you're a referee, you make a few bucks. In college, you make a reasonable amount. In the pros, if you're a veteran referee, 20 games, you could make $200,000 a year. You have to do better than you did on Monday night. I mean, I couldn't watch the game, and I had the winner. I had the points in Chicago. I didn't care. It was a horribly officiated game. There was this one call that they pointed out where, obviously, if you're outside the new rules in the National Football League, you can't cut somebody. But this was inside. This was inside the tight end, and he didn't even touch him. And they called a 15-yard penalty for cutting him, and it could have cost the Bears right there. It did cost the Bears right there. So it was one play after another. Very seldom have I seen a worse officiated game than I saw on Monday night. And folks, if you agree, or disagree, I don't know, but it was a horribly officiated game.
Let the NFL know. I'm telling you, it was a horribly officiated game, and it cost Chicago a win there. They constantly came back from the bad calls. And they still almost won the game. So, and also that line clip that he was talking about, that below the waist block, that was called by that female head linesman. Okay, she doesn't know what the hell that is. So why are they in there doing the refereeing?
So just to
wait. I have one more point. Okay. If they're not females, okay, they are the sons of former officials who have been nepotismed into their positions via nepotism. Okay. I want to see a whole new group of officials. I want to see some guys that don't have gray hair. I want to see some people that can run up and down the field as fast as the players can. Okay. And we're not going to get that with the women or the old gray haired nepotism referees we have now. We have to get some new referees or we're going to continue to lose games. I'm pissed because I had Chicago on the money line. That's why I'm pissed.
Okay. So let me frame this up just for perspective. In Major League Baseball, hockey, and basketball, the officials are total employees of the leagues, respectively. That's their full-time job. In college football and college basketball and the NFL, the officials actually have other day jobs. And that is something that has been brought up for many years. People have said, why don't we hire officials in the NFL and make them full-time employees of the league? That way they can spend all year studying the rules and hopefully do a better job. That hasn't happened yet, but it is a thought. Let's keep things moving. Let's go to the Los Angeles Chargers heading up to Minnesota. They right now, the Chargers -2.5, and the total is 53. Dennis.
Actually, the total's down to 51 now on this game. And the Chargers are taking money. I'm going to go with the Chargers. Not sold on the Vikings. I'm going to lay the 3 points here, and I'm going to let Fred break down the game for us because he knows the quarterback better.
Herbert threw for 355 yards last week after 2 bad games, and I presume we'll have mostly good games the second half of the National Football League season. Cousins is certainly he's outplayed what I thought he would so far in 2021, but I agree with you. I think the Chargers have a little bit too much talent. Keenan Allen's got a lot to prove the second half of the season, because after the losses, he was going into the locker room sort of complaining about other people. I think Keenan might catch 8 or 9 passes on Sunday. Mike Williams has been sort of forgotten, but he's still a top-notch wide receiver. I like the Chargers minus the field goal in this circumstance.
Okay, and let's go the Carolina Panthers, a team that we all like, but has really been falling off as of late, travels out to the desert. They play the Cardinals. Cardinals -10, 10.5. Fred?
Well, again, Cardinals.
I know that
the Cardinals without Murray and with McCoy, or with Murray and without McCoy, the Cardinals are going to win this game. And again, I can't wager because it's above it's double digits, but Cardinals look awfully good to me. Green, of course, out last week with COVID-19. Not sure at this point if he's going to be playing. He's going to add to the guys that can catch the ball, and I think they already have a slew. Again, I play fantasy a lot. I think Ertz, who's Zach Ertz from Stanford, who was traded from Philadelphia, will have a great second half of the season. He seems to have it. I think both quarterbacks, McCoy and Murray, have sort of pointed him out as a guy that they will throw to and throw to often. So if you're going to play fantasy, play Ertz, and if you're going to wager, I think you have to wager on the club known as the Arizona, St. Louis, and Chicago Cardinals.
And Dennis, you've got to pick them down to one city right now. I think Arizona's a good bet. What do you think of the Panthers?
Well, the Arizona is a solid 10-point favorite here. How about Kingsbury for NFL Coach of the Year? He's only lost 1 game, and he won this last game without his number 1 quarterback. Their defense continues to confuse. I'm going to upset the apple cart here. Here is another one of these wise guy axioms. The Cardinals went on the road last week without their quarterback, and they won and they covered. Now they're home as a big favorite at home, playing someone who looks to be a walkover. I'm going to take the Carolina Panthers here. That's why I'm an expert. That's why I'm at the top of the football rankings in the contest in Las Vegas. If you don't have the guts to pull a string on something like a game like this, then you're never going to win them. I'm taking Carolina +10 for many reasons. And one of them is Darnold's out. The quarterback of Carolina got his shoulder broke and he's out. So we get to see somebody else who cannot be worse. So I'm going to take the Carolina Panthers, shock everybody, win the contest, and take the 10 points.
Okay, and we'll keep it right here with you, Dennis. Seahawks at the Packers, -5. Right, and now it's down. It's opened at 5, down to 3. Green Bay laying 3 at home, 49 and a hook, the total. Dennis?
Well, there's one thing we know about this Green Bay Packers team, that their leader and their quarterback is the very same egotistical maniac as our twice impeached, embarrassing former president of the United States. Okay? All I can say is Rodgers is an embarrassment to football, Rodgers is an embarrassment to humanity, and Rodgers is an embarrassment to the Republican Party that he must have his teeth sunk into, because anybody that gets on and talks like he does and tries to expect everybody to be so stupid not to see through the words he's using is a dumbass, okay? And I will hate him till the end of the day. I can't imagine putting everybody at risk for that shit. And he's taken ivermectin too. Well, Terry Bradshaw at least had the balls to tell him, don't. Taking ivermectin's not going to keep you from getting COVID, and it didn't keep him from getting COVID. Nothing kept him from getting COVID because he got COVID, and therefore he exposed everybody else to it. So Rodgers is a piece of crap. Whether he plays or he don't play this week, I don't really give a shit, because Russell Wilson's back. All right, Russell come back with his finger in 2-3 weeks, and I'm going to take the Seattle Seahawks to upset the Packers, because I'm going to tell you something else too. When somebody acts like Rodgers does, how many people in his clubhouse are on his side? I'd have to say a couple of those offensive linemen may just say, on you, because I would. I'd snap the ball and move out of the way and let somebody come in and take his head off the first time, teach him a lesson. Okay, as far as the game goes, I'm taking the underdog Seahawks straight up on, and I mean straight up on the money line.
Okay, and the other thing about Rodgers, he's an embarrassment to the thesaurus because he was screwing up some terminology there. Fred, what do you think about the Packers and the Seahawks?
Well, again, we're not 100% sure that Rodgers is going to play on Sunday. Maybe not, depending on if he can pass the COVID test. And this time, they really give him a test. So we don't know if he'll be the quarterback or not. And obviously, your guy, Love, 195 yards passing, it did not have a great game against KC. So I don't know if Rodgers plays or not. I don't know what happens if he comes back. I think at this point, as Dennis indicated, Wilson wants to come back. Is he going to be 100%? I don't know. I do like the Seahawks from this perspective. They have so many weapons. You got those two wide receivers. You can make the case they're as good tandem as anybody in the National Football League, Metcalf and Lockett. And so Wilson's got a lot to prove. And I have a hunch Seattle's going to have a really big, solid second half of the season. So I agree with Dennis probably. I certainly would have taken the 5. And now it's down to 3. You know, it depends if Rodgers plays or not. But I think Seattle's got a real good shot here.
Okay, we're going to take our final break. I want to thank the folks at mybookie.ag for sponsoring the show. We'll be right back.
This is a review of Dennis Tobler's Now Place Your Bets by Canada Real Casino online service. Now Place Your Bets is a must-watch documentary for anyone interested in the world of casino and online sports betting. It is a chronicle of the dramatic rise in popularity of sports betting in the cities of Las Vegas and Atlantic City. It has now become a multi-billion-dollar industry worldwide.
And welcome back to Football Forecast Weekly. And I'm going to do a quick audible here and want to talk about a film that I was very honored to be on. And that's Now Place Your Bets, one of the best sports documentaries ever. And a couple weeks ago, we had a website say it's one of the 7 best sports movies ever, not just documentaries, going up against Martin Scorsese and the movie Casino. So we were very proud of that. And Dennis, talk a little bit about the movie and how you can find it or get a chance to watch it at home.
Now Place Your Bets, the history of sports betting in America, has now become an icon movie for sports betting and sports gamblers the world over. You can watch Now Place Your Bets by going to nowplaceyourbets.com. You can link up and put a copy in your video library from nowplaceyourbets.com, or you can purchase a DVD souvenir copy of it. And I want to admit or just say that the DVD is the full version of the movie, and the other versions of the movie have been edited by distributors. So if you really want the full scoop, buy the DVD. But go to nowplaceyourbets.com, check us out. I can't say how much acclaim we've had for this movie. The trophies you see behind me, we received from the film festivals around the world. And right now, we're just riding high, and we're going to take Football Forecast, Thoroughbred Forecast, Gambling Broadcast to new levels. and we hope to work with DBNA Television and others to expand our programming in the future. So Now Place Your Bets has led us to a great spot, and we're going to continue on from here.
Okay, and let's keep it right here with you, Dennis. The Broncos travel to Philadelphia to play the Eagles. Right now, I'm showing Denver -2.5. Interesting number here. Dennis, take it away.
Oh boy, I shook my head every week on the Eagles and been wrong on them every week. I went against them last week too on the road. They're on the road again this week. The Broncos absolutely demolished the Cowboys. That's the best game I've seen the Broncos play. And that was after trading their Super Bowl MVP away. I was shocked, but as I watched that game, I could see that they knew that Dak Prescott cannot perform. They knew exactly what he was going to do every time, and they were right in his face every time he did it. On the other side of the ball, Teddy Bridgewater's not a bad quarterback. He's cool, calm, and collected. He takes what they give you, and he doesn't make the mistakes. I said all year they ought to be pretty good because of their defense, and they are right up there. And I believe the AFC West is probably the best division anyway. So they're right up there in there. It's a tough game to call, though. I'm not sure. I really am not sure. The line went to Denver 3 after they demolished Dallas. And the Eagles, I have not had a clue about them all year. I mean, they lose at home last week. So I'm going to pass. I'm going to leave it to Fred. I hate to do that, but I am. I'm completely befucked. If it goes to 3.5, I'll take Philadelphia. If it goes to 2.5, I'll take Denver. How's that?
Okay, Fred.
Denver's got two top-notch running backs. I really like Melvin Gordon, another Wisconsin guy that has proven his way on the collegiate level and now in the National Football League. He's had some injuries. The Chargers should never have gotten rid of him, in my opinion, a few years ago. I think he'll have a big game. You don't know about Jalen Hurts. He's had his up moments. He's had his down moments. It's not a game I strongly feel one way or the other. But at 2.5, I think I'd probably give the 2.5 and take the Broncos. Maybe they can control the ball with those two running backs. So Philadelphia has not shown me a whole lot of consistency. So I'll lean a little bit toward the Broncos, even though they're coming off that big win over the Cowboys.
Okay, and we'll keep it right here. Our West Coast correspondent for Football Forecast Weekly, we've got the Chiefs going to Vegas to play the Raiders. Right now, they're looking at Vegas plus 2.5, 51 and a hook the total. You know that in the last 28 games that against the spread, the Chiefs, and people aren't going to believe this, but it's true, are 10-18. I'll repeat that, folks. Chiefs are 10-18 against the spread. That's on one side. On the other side, Raiders this year lost their coach. I never liked him, but they lost him. They lost Ruggs after the murders that I think he committed. You can't have a strong another
opinion.
wide receiver to gun. He was showing videos of him with guns, and they dropped him as well.
They picked up Deshaun Jackson out of Cal, who's going to be fun in the locker room, is all I can tell you. He's got similar viewpoints to Kyrie Irving of the New Jersey, the Brooklyn Nets. So it ought to be an interesting game. I'll watch it because I want to see if Mahomes gets back that magic. If I had to lean, I think I would say to myself, Kansas City has to find its offense. It's got too many weapons. So they have too many weapons. So I think a slight lean against the Chiefs.
Put it this way. If the Raiders drafted Pope Francis in the first round, I think the devil might get used to seeing a Pope because for whatever reason, they seem to have challenges. Dennis, what are your thoughts on your hometown Raiders?
Well, one is for sure, they better put together a new scouting outfit. And before they go to the draft, they ought to do some personnel evaluation. I mean, you're right, Tripp. They dropped their other first round draft choice this week. So in 2 weeks, they've lost their first round draft choices from last year. This guy was a cornerback, not a wide receiver. He was their cornerback, and he started. But he had an accident over by their workout facilities in Henderson, earlier in the year, walked away from his van, walked to the facility, never turned himself in. They come and towed his truck away, and the woman had to sue him. Well, in the course of suing him for hitting her, they found that he has some social media posts where he's waving a gun around threatening to kill somebody. Okay, this is the Raiders' other first-round draft choice. So 2 first-round draft choices. They did a real good job of vetting their personalities, didn't they? They're both wannabe crooks. They're both wannabe mobsters, and they don't have jobs in the NFL. And I doubt either one of them will ever play in the NFL again. So if they keep this stuff up, they're going to be gone. Now, let me tell you something about the town. The city of Las Vegas is sick of these guys running around doing this. They haven't been here very long, but they've caused more damn trouble than we get from normal tourists any day of the week. We don't need them running around 156 miles an hour in their Lamborghinis. We don't need them running people off the road and then just leaving their stuff, thinking that they're big hot shots that they are. Because in Las Vegas, you're not. You understand? There's always somebody bigger and better than you in Las Vegas. I know, I've been here for 50 years. So anyway, I've had it with the Raiders. The Raiders are done. Okay. I said it last week and I'll say it again this week. The Raiders were done last week. Christ, the Giants smothered them. Okay. So this week they're going to get smothered again because Kansas City needs a win worse than they need anything. And I don't think Mahomes is going to do any better than he's did in the past. It's just simply that Kansas City has more talent at every position and should be able to win by more than 2.5 points in this game. The Raiders are done. They have 3 players. They have Carr, they have Waller, and they have the flanker, Renfro. That's it. They have 3 players. On defense, if you want to say those defensive ends are all pro, you go ahead and say it. But we're only 9 games into the season. Wait till we end the year and the Raiders are on the bottom of the AFC West, because that's where they're headed. They're going to lose big Monday night, and I don't expect them to win many games the rest of the year.
Okay, and let's go to the Monday night game. And the Monday night game, the Rams at the Niners. And right now I've got San Francisco +4 hosting, the Niners +4, Rams coming in. Rams a very, very good team, even though they're coming off not a great week. Dennis, your thoughts?
Well, here again, I mean, San Francisco has kind of laid an egg. For them to get hammered the way they got hammered last week was not expected. Let's just put it that way. I'm not so sure they're any good. I don't think Garoppolo's any good. And their defense somehow or another fell apart too. I don't know if I like their coach. Everybody says they got such a great coach, but it doesn't seem to me that way. They haven't progressed any this year. Look, the Rams are talented. I believe Von Miller's going to play this weekend. How is anybody going to score against the Rams? I mean, you got Donald in the middle. You got Von on the outside. You got all those other stars in their defense. I mean, defense was win Super Bowls too. I'm going to take the Rams. I'm going to lay the 4 points here. I think San Francisco's done. I can't find any good parts of San Francisco.
Okay, well, I like Marin County, but that's just me. Fred, what are your thoughts?
And the Rams were unlucky to lose last week. 2 consecutive bad passes by Stafford. The first one he tried to imitate Carson Wentz, although he did throw it right-handed at least and not left-handed. And then, later, McVay made a horrible mistake, I thought. If you're going to play option, you don't put Stafford running to his left and trying to pass on 4th down. McVay thinks he's the smartest man in the room. He's not. He made a very bad mistake there. I think the Rams could have come back and knocked off and got the win over the Titans if he calls a better play in that circumstance. So I think the Rams will cover the 4-point spread. Dennis said it all about the 49ers. They've had problems from point A throughout half the season now. I don't see them improving. I'll take the Rams -4.
Hey, Fred, as usual, great job. Dennis, how do people get a hold of you if they want to get some insight directly from you?
Anybody want to call our Las Vegas office, you can call 888-604-6863. We'll be glad to help you out with anything you need in the gambling environment. Like all of my pals, they have a certain sense of talent. Fred Wallen once was a card counter here in Las Vegas. And most of my other friends also have a gambling background, second to none. So you want to watch this show every week and you want to check out Gambling Broadcast, because we are the utmost, longest lasting football selection firm, basketball selection firm, baseball selection firm in the United States of America.
Well, well said, Dennis. Want to thank you so much, Fred Wallen. Great job as usual. I want to thank our producer, Lee Spencer, for doing a wonderful job putting this together. I'm Trip Mitchell. We'll see you next time right here on Football Forecast Weekly. Go ahead and win out there. It's much more fun than losing. We'll see you.
Thank you for listening to Football Forecast Weekly, an affiliate of TSI Network.